That's one side of the story. Standing by with the other side is our reporter, Lindsay Dentlinger. She's out in Bloberg at the moment. Lindsay, what's the response from the city of Cape Town? Has the city been ignoring ratepayers' objections, or is it just a case of crunching the numbers?
Tafuma, I don't think the city will agree that they've been ignoring public participation in this process to determine these rates and tariffs. But with me, I have the Deputy Mayor, Neilson, who's also responsible for crunching the numbers in the city of Cape Town to respond to some of those claims that you have just played there about the city's rates and taxes. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for joining us this morning on eNCA. Firstly, Mr. Neilson, ratepayers are really struggling at this time. Post-COVID, still in lockdown, many people still without jobs, many people working reduced hours and struggling to make ends meet. How does the city of Cape Town justify these increases and increases for its staff when people are really struggling and they have not had salary increases themselves?
Well, so first of all, we have, as the city said, we do not agree to any salary increases this year. We have said at the Bargaining Council we stand for zero salary increases. And in fact, we have not allowed for that in our budget at all. And if in fact the Bargaining Council then does provide this, we're going to have to cut posts to ensure that we keep our costs under control exactly for that purpose. The only way we can make this work is to keep our costs under control. Unfortunately, there are some costs we cannot control, and one of the biggest ones is the cost of bulk electricity that municipalities have to pay to Eskom, where we've been given a 17.8% increase in bulk tariffs. So the fact that we've been able to come in at a tariff increase for our customers of just on 13%, I think shows you just how strongly we are able to control our portion of the costs. So that's significantly lower than other municipalities even because of our ability to control costs.
That might be so in terms of percentage, but in real terms, activists say this is just not the case. We have levies for water, for electricity in the city, which other metros do not have, and other charges that are added to our electricity prices. So by unit, it doesn't make electricity cheaper for many people in the city. How does the city balance these charges for people who are struggling in the city?
Well, we would challenge those claims. I mean, first of all, many municipalities do have fixed charges as part of both their water and electricity charges. The issue is one of properly balancing your tariff structure. So the fact that we have a fixed charge is there to ensure that those consumers who are low consumers, who are in fact requiring us to continue to cover the costs of an electricity distribution system, pay their fair share of the electricity costs, because if they don't, then the other consumers would have to pay more. So that's always the issue in the case. How do you structure your tariffs in a way that is fair for everyone? So, having a fixed charge, as far as we believe, is part of that. It does mean then that the consumptive tariff is lower than it would otherwise have been.
There is also a lot of unhappiness that, for example, people in prepaid electricity, if they owe the city any money they spend to buy electricity, firstly, they can dock some of that money for debt owing to the city. How fair do you think a system is like that?
Sorry, I don't understand your question.
So, for example, if I bought 100 rands worth of electricity, but I owe the council, I'm in arrears, for example, with, say, my bill is 200 rand, that in the end I'll maybe only get 50 rands worth of electricity because the rest is going to pay off debt. Is that fair when people are actually just struggling to buy electricity?
Well, that is one of our debt control mechanisms that we use. That when people buy electricity, we take some of that towards their arrears. For us, it is a fair mechanism to use. Just like any other mechanism to get people to pay their bills. You can compare that to people who are not on prepaid electricity, because if they don't pay, we cut them off entirely. At least the people who are on prepaid are getting some of their electricity. So, the point is very simple, that 98% of people are paying their bills in the city. We had a 98.8% payment ratio in this last financial year. So it is only a small percentage of people who are not paying. And it's not fair if we don't deal with those people, it's not then fair on that 98% who are paying.
You speak about being fair, but we are dealing with extraordinary circumstances. The city has recently made mention of how much it's written off in bad debt. Would it maybe not make more sense to be a little bit more lenient on ratepayers, and then the city wouldn't have to write off such a huge debt cost?
So most of the debt that we are writing off is really old debt, more than 3 years old. We also wrote off interest payments across the board. That is precisely because of the current circumstances, and we understand people are struggling. So to assist them, we've written off the the interest portion of their debt. We've also written off the debts, for example, of churches, of sports clubs, of all these community-based organizations, because they are the ones that have suffered during this period and have not had income. So we look very carefully at that. We also have a Indigen package in place so that people who are on lower incomes can, for example, get the lifeline tariff on electricity. There is a free water supply for consumers that are indigent and so on. So we have that package in place. And even now, for someone who perhaps had an income but has now lost their income, they can overnight come to us and they can be declared indigent and get all the benefit of those packages.
Thank you very much for your time. So Deputy Mayor Ian Neilson saying the city is trying to be fair and balanced in how it charges its ratepayers, and that it would be unfair for only some residents to pay for the services they receive and not others.
That was our reporter Lindsay Dentlinger for an update from the City of Cape Town's Deputy Mayor Ian Neilson.